The Amazon rainforest is a large tropical rainforest found in South America in the Amazon basin. The forest covers over 5 million square kilometers, covering land in 9 countries. The forest can be found in Brazil, Colombia, Peru, Venezuela, Ecuador, Bolivia, Guyana, Suriname, and French Guiana. Most of the forest, about 60% of its mass, exists in Brazil. The rainforest contains an enormous diversity of plant life, with some experts estimating that in just 1 square kilometer of rainforest, biologists can examine over 75,000 types of trees and 150,000 examples of higher plants. 1 square kilometer can also hold over 90,000 tons of plant life, which is the largest collection of living plants on Earth. Naturally, with all its abundance of plant life, the Amazon rainforest also holds the largest collection of animal species on Earth. There are over 3,000 species of recognized fish that reside in the Amazon River. The number of recognized fish is still growing, and some experts put the figures at 5,000. Inland, the rainforest is host to thousands of other species as well. The region is home to over 2 million insects and thousands of birds and mammals. At last count, the list of recognized species contained 1,294 birds, 427 mammals, 428 amphibians and 378 reptiles. It is estimated that about 1/3 of all species on Earth reside in the Amazon, making it, along with its plant life, the richest source of biodiversity in the world. Recurring wildfires, unprecedented flooding, persistent droughts. Communities everywhere are experiencing the harmful effects of climate change and more frequent extreme weather events. The science is clear: to stay on a path to net zero, we need an urgent global response. That means rapidly reducing carbon pollution and deploying carbon dioxide removal at scale. Carbon dioxide removal, or CDR, can help address emissions from the hardest to decarbonize sectors and eventually remove the legacy emissions already warming our planet and affecting our health. CDR includes technological approaches like direct air capture with durable storage, separating CO2 from ambient air and then storing the CO2 deep underground in geological reservoirs or in products like concrete. CDR can also be achieved through nature-based approaches like soil carbon sequestration. This involves managing land so that soils absorb and hold carbon. Minimizing soil tilling is one way to do this, or planting carbon sequestering cover crops between harvests. But as an emerging field, CDR approaches still require significant research, development, and demonstration to ensure CO2 removal can be deployed responsibly, effectively, and affordably to meet national and global net zero goals in the coming decades. Woodblocks used for pictorial illustration became fairly common in 15th century Europe, but had been used long before that for printing designs on textiles. Most of these were simple in design and quite crudely cut, but some were skillfully drawn and cut, while others even contained pictorial imagery. Records show that woodblock printing on fabrics was practiced by the Egyptians as early as 2000 years BC. The oldest existing printed fabric, which is Egyptian, dates from the 4th century. At the same time, the craft seems to have been widely established, even commonplace, elsewhere, for example, in India, Mexico, and Peru, where the same techniques continue to be practiced today. And the technique was almost certainly used by both the Japanese and the Chinese too. Brad, as I was saying, Professor Mitchell. Lisa, oh, please call me Lisa. Brad, yes, well Lisa, well I'm still trying to get my head around the choice of electives for the optional part of the third-year program. I was thinking of taking personal taxation law and company tax, together with the extra 5 credit point course on goods and services and VAT-type taxes, but I'm a bit concerned that I'm going to pigeonhole myself too early in the course. Lisa, yeah, Brad, as you know there are going to be interviews for summer clerkships coming up and I really don't want to come across as too focused on certain areas that a lot of firms don't even do, have a practice in. Lisa, well, don't forget, only about 25% of the course at this stage is elective based and you'll still have that core of subjects, crim, legal institutions, evidence, property law, general commercial and FedCon law, all of which would be of interest to a lot of firms. So if I were you, which I'm not, I'd really just go with what my interests are and enjoy the chance to undertake some work in an area that I'm motivated to pursue. Don't you think? There's an awful lot of time in this profession where you'll be undertaking long, stressful hours on projects that don't really interest you as much. Some years ago, Bjorn Lomborg, a young Danish statistician, published a book called The Skeptical Environmentalist. It became a bestseller and generated a lot of heat. Lomborg was attacked, abused and accused of all manner of things, not because he denied the fact of global warming, in fact he affirmed it, but because, on his analysis, the devil and, he says, a lot of deviousness was contained in the details presented concerning the size of the problem and what were the most responsible steps to take in response to global warming. Giant exoplanets, like the so-called hot Jupiters that are similar in characteristics to the solar system's biggest planet and orbit very close to their host stars, are excellent targets for astronomers in their search for their extrasolar worlds. The size and proximity of these planets is easy to detect, as they create a large decrease in brightness when passing in front of their parent stars. Okay. Today is our first years. So I'd like to begin with some important definitions. We're going to use these terms all semester. So pay dose attention to begin with. Chemistry is basically the study of matter. Matter is everything that makes up the universe. In this class, we are going to study the various elements and how they interact with one another. Sometimes they unite. When two or more elements unite, we call them compounds. Now, the study of chemical compounds is divided into two main branches of chemistry: organic chemistry and inorganic chemistry. Tank chemistry is the study of compounds that contain the element carbon. This basically cows what it cows all living things. Carbon is an element all peeing organisms have in common as IC. Inorganic chef/740 years. It's the study of non-carbon based compounds. The RFNE differences between organic and inorganic compounds. Listen carefully to these. First, there are more than 10 million carbon compounds. That's 10 times the number of inorganic compounds. Why are these so many carbon compounds? Lyra. Mostly because carbon bonds easily with other elements. It can also form complex crews. Got it? Second. Organic compounds melt in boa at lower temperatures than inorganic compounds. Thick organic compounds don't dissolve in water as easily as inorganic compounds. Fourth, organic compounds catch fire more easily than is organic compounds. However, inorganic compounds conduct heat and electricity more easily. Gnarly. Organic compound reactions take place, and slower rates than do inorganic compound reactions. Map making has a long and fascinating history, both before Ptolemy produced the first great map of the world and after, up to the beautiful simplicity of the London Underground map and the precisely detailed Ordnance Survey maps, which cover almost every inch of the United Kingdom. Ancient map makers used to draw on hills, valleys and rivers to give an idea of the topography, the shape of the land. It wasn't until the late 16th century that contour lines were used, that is, lines that linked points of the land at the same height, but this was to show the relative depths and shallows of a river. The first time land contours were used was on a map of France, which took about 40 years to complete, and was finished in 1783. The Ordnance Survey was set up in 1791 and their maps, as the name suggests, were originally made for military purposes, and the first one to be produced was of the county of Kent at a ratio of 1 inch to 1 mile. If Wikipedia had been around a couple hundred years ago, we probably would have had an article that says that the sun revolves around the earth because that was what we understood to be true. We no longer understand that to be true thanks to advances in science and physics, but if tomorrow we were to wake up and learn that in fact time being relative really does upend the way that we think about the world, Wikipedia would have to evolve in order to describe that. So we're not really in the business of truth or facts, we're in the business of what is known, and what has been determined through consensus, scientific consensus or otherwise. And I think that actually provides some clarity on how to understand what information you're looking at. One thing that I think is really unique about Wikipedia is there's only one version for the whole public. There's no feed that's curated for you or for me. We all are looking at.
A burro is a small donkey. Donkeys are related to horses, both are part of the equine family. Another way people say it is burro. The name comes from Spanish and, before that, from a Latin term for small horse. Burros reach an average height of over a meter and can weigh more than 225 kilograms. The long-eared animals are often gray with white noses, jaws and undersides. But they can also have coats of red or blue. Burros are known for their sure footing on mountains while carrying heavy loads. In the United States, they are best known for their history as pack animals in the desert Southwest. In fact, burros in the wild are related to pack animals that ran away or were freed by gold miners and others.
Protons are finally transferred to the LHC both in a clockwise and an anticlockwise direction, where they are accelerated for 20 minutes to 6.5 TeV. Beams circulate for many hours inside the LHC beam pipes under normal operating conditions. For each collision, the physicist's goal is to count, track, and characterize all the different particles. The charge of the particle, for instance, is obvious since particles with positive electric charge bend one way and those with negative charge bend the opposite way. Also, the momentum of the particle can be determined. Large Hadron Collider, LHC, is the world's largest particle accelerator lies in a tunnel. The LHC is a ring roughly 28 kilometers around that accelerates protons almost to the speed of light before colliding them head-on. Protons are particles found in the atomic nucleus, roughly 1,000 millionth of a meter in size. The LHC starts with a bottle of hydrogen gas, which is sent through an electric field to strip away the electrons, leaving just the protons. Electric and magnetic fields are the key to a particle accelerator.
In far northern Mongolia, the survival of the smallest ethnic group in the country depends on reindeer. An American named Morgan Key visited the Tsaten community when she was studying in Mongolia in 2002. Leaders told her that the animals were not healthy and the number of reindeer was getting too small to support the community. When she left, the chief gave her his grandfather's smoking pipe. That way she would remember the Tsaten and try to help them. The Tsaten have about 500 members. About half are reindeer herders up in the Taiga Mountains. The other half live in a town.
Thinks it's one of the best things I've done really. A person's educational level is closely related to his economic background. A number of students have volunteer jobs. A massive accumulation of data was converted to a communicable argument.